Catherine Caldwell slid into the booth beside the man. It was difficult to identify who he was, but I was confident he was someone she recognized. The way they interacted made this evident. What I knew for certain was that I was not the one sharing those experiences. Who am I? I'm her husband, and I'm observing them from across the dimly lit pub, sat directly opposite. My stomach churned. I was meant to be out of town until the following Sunday, a week from now, but a tip from my wife's female coworker informed me that she was not who I thought she was. So I canceled my trip to San Francisco and decided to follow her to learn the truth. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. After 18 years of marriage, I found myself watching her with another man, feeling betrayed by my own wife. My rage, disdain, and sadness merged into a burst of determination. I was not going to let this stand. I knew I'd win, but I also knew confronting her would be difficult. I had spent so many years with her, sharing our lives and experiences, and the emotional and psychological investment was enormous. I needed to know why this was happening. Was there any possibility of saving our marriage? I was probably about to divorce. Even if I wanted to save it, no amount of wishful thinking would change the situation. I had no notion what she'd do or want. My stomach pains became very severe. I got up and went to the men's room. At the very least, I could throw up there. Thankfully, it wasn't in the car, but my heart hurt even more than my stomach did. Nothing is more terrible than a betrayal of trust by someone you love. Nothing. I'd been married to Catherine for about 20 years. 18 is near enough. I was 52 and she was 49. We had already been married, but neither had produced any children. Our daughters, Jessica and Maya, had joined us around the end of our first year of marriage. They have been a pleasant surprise. The females I knew had served as our anchor, and Catherine and I cherished them for that, among other reasons. It was my evidently mistaken belief that our marriage was one of the positive statistics. In the end, it appeared that this would not be the case, at least for the foreseeable future. Returning from the head, I passed directly next to their table. I mean, within 3 feet of them, for goodness sakes. I glanced directly at them as I passed, almost daring them to see me, but they didn't know me. I didn't care what happened because they were so engrossed in each other. I did get a decent glimpse at the man, however. It was Julian Weathers, her employer at the insurance company she worked for. She used to call him good old outside in the parking lot. I took a deep breath. My Okinawan martial arts training was effective. Now for the deep, regulated breathing. Breathing is fundamental to martial arts. The key, our inner power, and mental serenity flow from the core of our being. Proper breathing enables the individual to tap into this strength and peace. I understand that sounds terribly unscientific, yet it works. I felt a lot better. I suppose it is time I mentioned something about myself. I am 5'6". I used to be 5 or 7, but I lost 1 inch and have no idea why. I weigh around 160 pounds, with the majority of that made up of steel hard muscle. My feet have slowed down over the years. Okay, a lot, but not my hands. Only 2 things move faster than my hands. One of them is similar to what the other scientists haven't named yet. My face is kind of screwed up. But Catherine always thought I looked tough. Until now, I'd readily accepted her account of events. I took up martial arts to stay in condition after my boxing career ended 20 years ago. Catherine was aware that I had been a boxer before we met, but she had shown no interest in learning more about it, except from the fact that it was real. I had exited the ring more than 2 years before we met, so it never came up in conversation. My track record as a prize combatant was not great. 942 of the losses, however, came against ranked opponents. I was the one they went to for tune-ups. I was a natural welterweight, but my tune-ups had been against lightweights. Both of the ranked fighters had nearly killed me, but I had not been knocked down in either bout, and that had been my goal, to go the distance and stay standing. I did it. At my age, I'm destined to be a middleweight. So, what are you going to do? I am older now. Nonetheless, and as I previously stated, in fairly damn fantastic shape at the moment, I was considering how many ways I might vent my frustrations on Mr. Weathers. The man was at least 62 years old and possibly 240 pounds, so the fight should have been fair. As for my current job, I am a logistics engineer for a freight line. Trucks, not ships or trains. It is my responsibility to ensure that resources and cargo arrive at their destination as quickly as feasible, while incurring as little cost and product damage as possible. The work pays nicely. Six-figure incentives can be hefty. It wasn't money that drew my wife into Mr. Weather's arms. I knew I earned more than him. It must have been something else. Perhaps his size. I had always felt embarrassed by my little tool. But what is it, you could ask? Catherine always said it was plenty for her anyway. I wanted to believe her. I had a thought. I took out my cell phone. It functioned both as a phone and a camera. It also has a 2-power zoom. I was going to take some photos if I could. I wasn't a private investigator, but it sounded quite easy to me. Get him to come out. Get him where he was. They finally went. Then wait and confront her first, and him later. The 304 comes first, followed by the a-hole. I'm not sure when it occurred to me, but at some point during all of this, I made the deliberate decision to be cold and efficient, rather than emotional and aggressive. I needed to collect evidence. When I got divorced, I recognized I'd need proof of her adultery. If I do. In fact, I had decided that I was going to do all in my power to ruin her a-hole lover, and that whether I succeeded or not, I began preparing right away. The only difficult aspect of my chat with myself was deciding how to approach the subject of telling our twin teenage kids, Jessica and Maya, why I was leaving their mother. I did not enjoy the little ditty. I snuck back inside the bar, trying not to be observed. I got close enough to take a couple of photos of the two of them playing around, albeit in horrible lighting. I left as soon as I had fulfilled my goal. I knew I'd have to have the images enhanced because I hadn't used the flash, but I knew Ronnie could do it for me as soon as I got hold of him. Ronnie was a longtime buddy and the geek of computer geeks. There was no technological advancement that he couldn't influence like a 13th Olympian deity. The parking lot was a little brighter than the bar, and she had parked near the door, directly beneath a light standard. It was bright as day. I could definitely get pictures of them when they came out. It was around 45 minutes later when I observed Catherine and Julian leave the bar. They paused in the shadows and exchanged a lengthy kiss from behind a dumpster 20 feet away. I was able to take a picture of it, and when I reviewed it right away, I was pleased to see that I had captured a good, clear image. Both of their faces were identifiable. They held hands as they walked to their respective cars. This ended up being parked next to hers. How convenient, I thought. I wasn't due home for another 6 days, so I booked a motel room less than 2 miles from our house. I settled in and considered my next step. I needed answers to a number of questions. Why did she decide to play me? Was she planning on divorcing me? She and the asshole were clearly not new to this, but how long had it been going on? Was she involved with other men? I had my doubts about the last part. Their kiss made me realize that there was more to it than just sex. It seems they were in love. Okay, I asked myself, what should I do? I could employ an investigator. I could afford it. Alternatively, I may continue to do my own investigations. I was not foolish, but I was inexperienced. A pie would have the necessary equipment and supplies to stick it to the two cheaters. There was also the fact that Mr. Weathers was married with 5 children, and if I understood what my wife had told me about him, his wife was the one who controlled the family's finances, and that information was really intriguing. Catherine would be working until 4:30 p.m. the next day, so I planned accordingly. I had some time to organize myself, but not much. By morning, I decided on a pie. The Yellow Pages were my next destination. I chose one that claimed to have been providing service in the area for 17 years. There's nothing like experience. I scheduled the appointment for the same morning. I sat across from Mr. Carr, a man in his mid-50s. There was a cigar in the ashtray in front of him, and his drab office looked like out of a Dashiell Hammett novel. I assumed this guy just needed a trench coat to compete with Bogey. Mr. Carr concluded. That's it. Yeah, pretty much. I just arrived yesterday and captured them last night. There's obviously something going on, and I need proof. So what are your thoughts? Can you do it? I responded yes, no problem. He asked, with what? You gave me the pictures and the rest. It will be easy. If you wanted to do it yourself, you could do it easily. I'm just terrified of making a mistake, like giving the guy a size 8 suppository and ending up in jail. I don't want either of them to have the gratification of seeing me behind jail. So, there is it. Then we'll be on the job immediately, Mr. Carr stated. I will plant the devices in the house today while she is at work. Good, I replied. We shook hands, and I returned to my motel room to wait and decide what I was going to do with my wife. I decided not to do much until I received the report from the PI. If he affirmed what I already knew to be true, I had almost decided to land on her with both feet. I wanted custody, the house, as much of our money as I could wring out of an unduly lenient legal system. And I wanted vengeance. She could have the whole, and I couldn't wait till life with him stopped smelling like a new automobile. She recognized what she had lost. Anyway, that's what I hoped would happen. Mr. Carr had made it clear that I was to remain away from both of them for the duration. If necessary, the duration will be a complete week. But this didn't mean I couldn't call the traitor. I called her every day when I was out of town. It would have aroused her concerns if I hadn't called her. The telephone rang in her office. She responded to it. Hi, yeah, it's me. It is fine here. I agree. But we'll be together this weekend unless anything unexpected happens. Okay, so what are you going to do to avoid boredom? That sounds wonderful. Emily is a fun person. Okay, fair enough. Okay. I did not intend to disrupt your meeting with JWYEAH. I agree. Give JWI apologize for interrupting the meeting. I hung up. I had actually caught them at a conference of some sort. Well, it was a company. After all, it might even have been legitimate. Still, pictures of her bent over her desk, getting banged from behind, dominated my thoughts. Her voice had revealed nothing. So why should it have? As far as Lincoln was concerned, I was in San Francisco, which was 1,000 miles away. I could image both of them smirking at my timing. The thought annoyed me about Catherine's version of the story. Catherine observed a guy observing them from across the barroom, but it was too dark to see who cared. She believed she was having pleasure with her lover. She was feeling a little guilty, however. Malcolm was away, and she intended to be with Julian, even if it meant cheating. But it was merely a technical issue, she reminded herself. Malcolm would suffer. Not at all. For her to do it. Certainly not when they were still married. She treated him well right up until the end. She intended to divorce him as soon as the girls turned 18 in a few months. And then he'd be free to find someone who made him happy. She genuinely wished that for him. For herself. She fell in love again. Just not with her spouse. She hadn't felt so strongly about a boy or man since high school. True, Julian couldn't provide the same standard of living as Malcolm, but the divorce settlement would cover a large portion of the gap. Nonetheless, she had to be cautious. This was not a no-fault state. If she is caught in adultery, she may lose her finances. As a result, she only spent time with Julian when her husband was away. What he didn't know wouldn't hurt anyone, she reasoned. She did felt some sorrow about what she intended to do to her husband. He had been a good man in every way, except for two things. One, he was terrible in bed, and his thin little weenie no longer satisfied her. Not since she'd met Julian. A very large one. And two, Malcolm was dull. Let us get out of here, Catherine. Julian responded, I need to get you naked. She grinned at him. She stood up and said, happy to oblige. He threw a bill on the table, and they departed. He drew her to him outside the door, and they kissed in the bistro's dim lighting. They walked arm in arm the few yards to their automobiles. My house, she said. We have a meeting in the morning, so I'm going to have to limit you tonight. Unlike you, I need to arrive early for the setup. I understand. He laughed. I am the boss. Remember? They laughed. They drove away, not spotting the man partially hidden in the darkness by the dumpster. Catherine parked her car in the driveway and went inside. She switched on the porch light for her lover and left the door open. Catherine had given the girls permission to spend the night at Miranda's, which worked nicely with her plans for the evening. She and Julian could perform the bedroom mambo, and she could then run him away early enough to obtain the rest she knew she needed. Jess. Who was parking in front of the neighbor's house? Said Maya. How do I know? Wait, that is Mom's boss. Who is Julian? Jessica said this as the big man came out of his car and entered the home nonchalantly, as if expecting. Maya remarked, that doesn't look good. What's that man doing in our house so late at night? It's past 10. Oh, we're going in, Jessica said. I've had to get my cloths for tomorrow, don't I? I mean, if we're all going to the water park in the morning, Maya explained. It's all your fault anyway. You should have told me about your plans to go there before we left for Miranda's. Oh, yeah. Blame it all on me, said her twin. This is our residence. Why shouldn't we go inside to grab my belongings? said Maya. Maya, I have a bad feeling about this, Jessica replied, starting to cry. I agree, Jess. But Mom wouldn't cheat on Dad, would she? God, I hope not. Jessica spoke while she and Maya sat in the car across the street. The porch light on their home went out. They waited a few minutes before they started to worry. The dude didn't appear to be coming out. We need to get in there and collect my clothing, Maya remarked. And I'm terrified, Jessica admitted. Wait, I understand. I'll call Mom on the phone and tell her we're coming to fetch your belongings. Maya grinned. Yes, that will work. And we can pull up beside her car as she answers the phone. That way, she won't be tempted to suggest that we come over in the morning to grab them instead. Hello, Mom. Me and Maya. Yes. Miranda's is a pleasant place for us. No, we will be gone all day tomorrow. Yes. Oh, the water park. We need some items. Oh, we will be there in 1 minute. We'll just run in and out. No. We're currently pulling into the driveway. Jessica hung up. Their mother greeted them at the door. Girls, hurry up and get what you need. I need to get into bed. I have a large meeting tomorrow. I hope you two are behaving yourself at Miranda's. Yes, we are. Mom, I'll acquire my suit and a few other items. And we'll be out of your hair, Maya explained. Jessica waited at the door as Maya dashed upstairs to her room. Maya noticed that the door to her parents' room was closed. That, combined with the fact that their mother was already dressed in a robe, was telling. Maya collected her belongings and dashed down the stairs. Bye, Mom, murmured the twins in unison as they dashed out the door. Have fun tomorrow, girls, replied their mother. The girls waved as they backed out of the driveway and drove down the street to their friend's house, where they were staying overnight. Maya complained that there is a hole in her and her father's room. Catherine Caldwell turned and let out an audible sigh of relief as her two daughters drove away. She leaned back against the door jamb, taking a few long breaths. She climbed the stairs into the bedroom, where her beloved was already nude and waiting. That didn't take long, he remarked, reaching to pull her into his arms. She held him back gently and stared into his eyes. Julian, I have a question for you, and I need an honest answer. Okay? He said, a troubled expression coming across his features. You are about to do me, and that in my married bed. So far, my husband is unaware of our existence, so we could back off and resume our normal lives. Thank you to Helen and the children, in me, to Malcolm and the twins. Do you really want me as much as I want you? Are you sure you want to do to Helen what I'm going to do to Malcolm when I serve him with divorce papers in a few months? Make sure. Julian, I love you, but I don't want this to end with you taking a piece of my blood and saying goodbye. I'm not sure what I would do if you did it to me, she said. Catherine, you are the love of my life. I desire you just as much as you desire me. I've wanted you since we first met at the office. Later, when Malcolm was away, I enjoyed our quiet lunches and dinners. Too little and not nearly often enough, but still excellent. I vow to you, I love you, and you are much more to me than just a piece on which you can rely, he stated. He embraced her in his arms, and she melted into him. The robe had slid off her shoulders. She was now naked, just like him. He kissed her forehead, ears, neck, and then her lips. He was kind, slow, and thoughtful of her needs. He led her to the bed and placed her down. He stared down at her. She began giving BJAFTER a few minutes. She glanced up at him and said, Now, screw me. He screwed her hard. They eventually toppled together. The odor of sex and mating was all about them. He cannot do that for you, answered the man. No, he cannot. He's too small, she said. If he had what you had, you may not be here. He smiled. His conquest was completed. He knew she was his. They embraced and slept with sexual satisfaction. 2 days later, Mr. Carr dialed the cell phone number provided to him. He had summoned the cult husband into his office. Malcolm sat across from him now, having learned the essentials. The PI, he obtained what he needed sooner than expected. Yes, there is an affair, and they appear to be in love. I apologize, Mr. Caldwell, but it is all included in the bundle. Thank you. It's upsetting to finally know. But I knew in my heart after that night at the bistro that this would be the outcome. I know what to do now. Thank you again. I mentioned this in his automobile. I cried. I let the tears fall without attempting to stop them. I would cry for a little while, then get back to work. I had not seen or heard the tapes yet. I wasn't certain I wanted to. I knew exactly what they contained. The substance was in the written report. The report was terrible enough, but Mr. Carr's chilly, descriptive lines lacked tone, passion, and intensity. The written report had saved him from all of it. The cassettes would be even more brutal and devastating to his mind and spirit. Betrayal was always horrible, the absolute worst. I drove directly to my back. I took half of the assets and deposited the proceeds in an untraceable offshore account I had already established. I wasn't taking any chances. I thought I might give her the house. I couldn't bring myself to live in it after seeing how desecrated it had been. However, she would only receive half of the cash I had left in the account, so I'd get 3/4 of the original $300,000. I canceled our common credit cards. I kept only my work credit card. It would have to suffice in the meantime. My visit with the lawyer in the afternoon would be brief. I had already started the wheels in action. I would give Sam, my dear friend and long-standing associate, permission to submit the divorce papers and have her served. Finally, I realized that I needed to meet with my girls and let them determine what they wanted to do. This wasn't about them, but whatever resentment I had against my wife would have a significant impact on them. It would be due to the harm her selfishness would cause to my children. I was furious with her for it, very angry, but my ire was directed at the man who had seduced my wife and cucked me. I genuinely hoped the idiot didn't show up, because if he did, I couldn't promise that I'd let him go. At 10 a.m., a man with a briefcase strolled into Sierra Insurance Limited's offices and inquired about Miss S. Caldwell. He was led into her office. There was a man bending over her desk, scrutinizing documents. The guest addressed Miss S. Caldwell before gazing over at the large man beside the desk. He grinned. "And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you're Mr. Weathers." "Yes, I am." "Good. It saves me the travel." He opened his briefcase and took out 2 manila envelopes. He looked at each party's name and handed them theirs. "Mrs. Caldwell, both of you have been served with divorce papers. And you, sir, for the alienation of affection. Mr. Caldwell requests that neither of you attempt to contact him. He has moved out of your home, Mrs. Caldwell." He stated he gave each person a card. Sam Kellerman, an attorney. Any interaction should go through Mr. Kellerman's office. The man then turned to leave. Catherine Caldwell was stunned. She nearly collapsed into her chair. She paled. Her body was soaked with uncontrollable tears. It was not supposed to be this way. She had intended to make everything as easy as possible for her husband, but he had gone and ruined her good intentions. Everything was a shambles now. The girls. She needed to go to the females. Nothing else mattered at the moment. She stood up and moved to leave. She gazed at her lover and said nothing. They speak later. Julian merely stood there, stunned, and with a firm rejection of affection. What had he done except fall in love? Then it happened with another man's wife. It did not strike him as meaningful. Helen. My God. He had a thought. She divorces him quickly. The children. It was going to become messy. The 2 daughters and their father sat in a Denny's booth. "Girls, I am sorry to have to tell you this, but I am leaving your mother. We've got troubles," I said. "Major issues." Maya started crying. "Do you know, Dad?" I said. "You're familiar with Mom and her boss," Jessica explained. "You girls are also aware," I said. "We've spotted the a-hole in our house at night," said Maya. "Yes, we know. We want to stay with you, Father. I do not want to be around that big, obese asshole," Jessica added. "If I see him trying to kiss Mom, I think I'll try to kill him." Wow, that was all I could think to say. "You can stay with me, girls. Of course. But I don't want you to cut yourself apart from your mother. I don't want to see her for a variety of reasons, but you both do." "Okay." The twins nodded. "Here's my new address, and you have my phone. Gather your belongings and come tonight, if you like. I've leased a 3-bedroom condominium. You will each have your own room. They're also really nice," I said. "Girls, I want you to know that whatever you decide is okay with me. I want you with me, but I'd never force you. If you alter your mind, and even if you modify it several times, I will try to understand and accommodate your wishes. I adore you both with all of my heart and soul. You are not responsible for any of this, but it will have an impact on you, and for that, I genuinely apologize." The 2 young women approached him and hugged and kissed him. Tears flowed all around. The divorce conflicts began the next day at my workplace. Julian Weathers stormed into Driscoll Logistics and Engineering's yards. He observed his quarry with 2 women, who appeared to be clerical staff. at an open receiving port. "Hello, Caldwell." "Are you a hole?" Julian replied. I saw the enormous man run toward me. I prepared myself to evade his rush. I had been in too many sessions to be surprised by what was about to happen. "She was your wife, and you shit on her, jerk," he said as he came at me. I quickly sidestepped him, and he collided with the wall, swearing like a sailor. "I'm going to make you cry. Your fancy karate won't cut it for you." Shrimp tangled. Shrimp. Now I was about to have some fun. He lunged again, and I sidestepped him again. He dropped on one knee. I wondered perhaps I hadn't lost as much foot speed as I imagined. I resolved not to let him get away with it any longer. He got up and stood. He was slightly more hesitant. I just stood there, arms relaxed and ready by my side. He approached me more deliberately. I bobbed beneath his wild haymaker. I delivered 2 severe incisions to his rib cage. I could hear his lungs deflating. He tried unsuccessfully to catch his breath. I approached the gasping adversary gently and fired at least a dozen short flashing hooks into the side of his face and head. His eyes glazed over and he kind of melted to the ground. He was gone. From the corner of my eye, I saw her. Catherine had been with him, but she didn't approach him. She ran. So why wouldn't she? She had to be terrified. Jessica and Maya were grabbing their belongings as their mother walked through the door. "Thank goodness you girls are here," remarked Catherine. Then she paused. Her face took on a terrified expression. She examined the suitcases and large trash bags behind the couch. Jessica's mother confirmed that the girls would be remaining with their father. Their mother passed out after they had gotten her conscious, up and onto the couch. The daughters stood in front of their mother's seating positions. "Mom, we do not like your boss." "Never did," Maya explained. "But we despise him today, and we are deeply disappointed in you." Jessica took her shot while saying, "Maya, Mom, Maya and I do not want the family to break up. We realize it's not up to us, but if you divorce Dad and marry that shithead, we're out of your life." Catherine was sobbing uncontrollably and was unable to speak coherently. The girl is moving toward the door. Jessica paused and turned. "Mom, you are an asshole. Take control and figure things out before it's too late." Then they were back with Malcolm. "I purchased the condo, girls. We now have an actual home." I explained that after the initial outburst, things had calmed down, as they always must, and I had settled into my new routine as a single parent. I made it a point to ensure that the girls spoke with their mother in person once a month. The divorce had been finalized in just under 7 months, and I learned from the girls that their mother had married the a-hole in Vegas within a week of the final decree. It hurt to hear that, but I expected it. The woman was in love, according to what I heard on the records. The girls had eased their threat of never seeing their mother again if she married the shithead, but they still refused to see him. This pleased me, however. In fact, it left their mother extremely disappointed. Mr. Julian Weathers had, of course, been booted out by his wife. She had financially abused him, and he and his new wife were struggling to make ends meet. He also understood the agony of losing all but minimal communication with his own children. It is stated that one of the finest days in a father's life is the day he is able to marry his daughter to a just and honest man. The twins were to be married, both in the same ceremony, to 2 brothers, not twins. The next day, it had been 3 years since Catherine's divorce, and I hadn't seen or spoken with my ex in that time. I'd see her tomorrow. The girls had stated she may even invite Julian if she wished to accompany her, but that was it. He would not take part in the wedding. Time helps to reduce, if not totally remove, the hurt. I noticed her for the first time, standing near the artificial arbor, set up for Jessica and Maya's special supper that evening. Their fiancés, Bill and Hugh Roberts, were speaking with her. Catherine smiled. I looked around and didn't see Julian. I had to promise the girls that I would not pound the guy as I did the last time. I understood they were joking, but the message was still serious. I'd had to vow not to offend. The prospective grooms glanced at him. I nodded. I was waiting for my friend Ronnie to arrive. He was meant to be the official photographer. I was astonished to see them each take an arm of his ex-wife and walk towards me. I searched around for a graceful escape. There was none. Hugh said, "Sir, our brides have assigned us a mission. They made it quite clear that we needed to get you two to talk to each other." "That's correct, sir," said Bill. "They stated to remind you that this was their day or evening, and they wanted it to be special for the people who brought them into the world." With that, The two men departed. I wasn't certain, but I believed I heard them laughing as they retreated to safer territory. We were staring at each other. I was the first to speak. "How are you doing, Catherine?" "Okay, Malcolm." "And you're okay, I suppose." "Where is Julian?" I questioned, looking around. "He is not here," she said. "Oh, Malcolm, I had nothing to do with this. The boys just came up and grabbed me. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why the girls are doing this. They recognize you. Catherine, I do not detest you. I was hurt by what you did to me, but I never despised you. Oh, and tell your partner that he no longer needs to worry about me. I got it out of my system that one time, and it's no longer an issue for me. You understand," she said. "I never realized how tough you were until that day. I knew you used to be a boxer, but, well, I simply had no notion. Thanks." I believe I mentioned it was her turn to smile. "Today is a significant occasion for our girls. I suggested that we sit together at the table. It would make them feel better." "Malcolm, I think that's a great concept." "Malcolm, we'll be seated together. I think we should talk," he said. "I guess we should have talked a long time ago." But time slipped away from me, and she nodded in agreement. "That said, Catherine, I believe it should not be tonight. Not about the important issues. This is rather an uncommon meeting. Shouldn't grooms keep away from their future spouses the night before their weddings? I believe we should focus on the girls tonight," he said. "I'll call you in a few days and we'll have lunch or dinner." "You're correct, of course," she said during supper. I noticed the twins observing me. Was it the two of us, Catherine and me? I noticed them whispering to each other every few minutes, while keeping an eye on our table, which was just about 20 feet away from theirs. The brides looked great the next morning, and so did the guys. The wedding ran smoothly. It should have. Their father had spent a small sum. On the day of the wedding, I reflected on the fact that Julian had yet to arrive, and Catherine had been paired with me again. I observed she walked with a small limp and wore a long-sleeved blouse, despite the heat. I began to suspect that something was wrong. The wedding and reception were beautiful in some ways, but painful in others. I'd missed the girls' loudness, troubles, filthy room, and everything. After the girls had left the reception and gone on their honeymoons, Catherine and I were left standing next to the bandstand, looking at each other. We were all aware that a new era had begun in our lives. It was an embarrassing moment. I turned to face her. "Catherine." She looked pained. She looked up at me. "Yes. Is there something wrong?" I saw her fighting back tears. I thought that's what I saw. We fought. You would not arrive. "It was a rough fight," she said. "My mood worsened. He struck you, didn't he?" I said, attempting to maintain self-control but falling short. She simply glanced aside. "I will destroy the scum, sucker," I said, through grim teeth. Her head swung around, and she replied no. I could see she was terrified. "Okay, I understand. I'm cool," I said. I made a mental note not to kill the scum sucker. "Malcolm, we broke up last night. That is why he had lost it. We were never able to overcome the loss of our families. His ex makes it tough for him to see both his own and my children. Ours despise him. He's not in a good emotional state," she remarked. "So you get to aid him by being his punching bag," I said, not quite sneering. "Malcolm Caldwell, you must promise me you will not do something dumb. It is my fault. It was all my fault. If I hadn't cheated 3 years ago, none of this would have happened." "Malcolm promised me," she demanded. "I will not murder him," I said. "But if he's still in town when I go looking for him in Catherine, he's in for a rude awakening. Don't ask me for anything more." She nodded. I paced back and forth outside the pub, knowing he was among the early comers, along with me. I was deciding whether I should walk in and talk to him, or wait him out. I asked a parking valet at his work where he might go. The young man had not hesitated. The young man mentioned the Greenfield bar. "You can see it from here. It's right over there. He visits there frequently. They also had amazing hamburgers." I thanked him and placed a fin in his hand. The day was scorching. I finally decided to go in. The setting was cold and dim, but not dark. I could see clearly. I observed him talking to one of the serving girls. I approached the girl, Sammy. I suppose the expression on my face made her think of something else to do. She ended her talk with Julian and sashayed away from the bar. Julian was not impressed. He turned to see what had interrupted his brief encounter with the girl. What a way to ruin a perfectly good day. Julian commented, spotting me behind him. I'm here to talk to you, jerk, I said. Then you'll be speaking to yourself since I'm not listening. He stated that it would be your choice. But you need to find a way to hear me. Or you are going down, I explained. You're correct. If you come near Catherine again, I will be there, and you will not like it. If you contact her over the phone, I am going to find you. If you drop her a note, I will track you down and make you eat it. She made me promise not to tear your cowardly buttocks up. However, if there is a next time, I will not hear her. Good day, Mr. Weathers. I stalked out. I spent the following 3 days packing for a small vacation I had planned. I would spend some time alone. I couldn't get Catherine out of my head, since I needed closure, and had considered calling her. I had to believe I had promised her we'd talk, but for some reason, I couldn't pick up the phone and ring her number. The treachery of 3 years ago still stung. Having witnessed what she had become, I realized that I still had feelings for her. Regardless of how much I procrastinated, fate was going to take over. The telephone rang. I picked it up. It was Catherine. We talked for a few minutes. She was on her way up to visit me. I had a feeling my daughters were behind everything. I answered the knock at my condo door. She stood there, calm and composed. Come inside. I spoke, finally finding my voice. Thank you, Malcolm. The first recommended that she should take a seat. She sat down gently on the couch. I hear you talking to Julian. I did not touch him. I replied, I know, the bartender informed me. She described him as a great friend. I nodded. Malcolm. 3 years ago, I thought I was in love with another man named Julian. I now realize that was simply a terrible case of foolishness. I'm clearly not a genius. Are you saying it was stupidity? Not his huge tool, I remarked, rubbing it in. I overheard what you said about me on the tape. Malcolm stood there, attempting to understand the visceral emotions that were pouring through his thoughts. Catherine had been honest to some extent after the conversation, but the words she had said before lingered in his ears. She winced, and her voice trembled. You are a proud man, Malcolm. I understand that my words wounded you. I ask your pardon for it. I really do. I will not lie to you. He has a large tool. He's larger than you, Malcolm. You'd know I was lying if I told you otherwise. I am done with the falsehoods, but his tool alone would not have been enough to separate me from you or the females. It was far more than that. At the same time, significantly less. The truth is that I was bored. The exhilaration of the hunt caused me to lose control, and I blundered. Malcolm could not help himself. You stated you loved him, he responded harshly. That was also on the cassettes. I thought I did, she said, but I did not. I understand that today is as self-serving as it sounds. It sounds self-serving. Catherine, he shot back. She sighed, softly crying for me. It wasn't simply about cheating. As bad as that was, it wasn't because you heard me say I loved him, or how small you felt when I mentioned him. I betrayed your confidence. That is the most difficult thing to overcome. I need to be someone you can trust. Someone who always has your back, not someone else's. I know, she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. I guess I'll never be able to convince you that I'm trustworthy again. I truly am, though. I know it, but I'm not sure how to prove that to you. Malcolm stood still, his voice steady yet full of intensity. I met with you tonight because I wanted to hear what you had to say. I know the females want us back. Hell, I sometimes wish it too. But how can I be sure you won't become bored again? That you won't look for another major tool to keep you entertained? Catherine stood by the window, her hands quivering and wiping away a tear. Her voice was gentle and almost plaintive. Malcolm, I am no longer seeking for excitement or distractions. I only want happiness, real happiness. I need someone I can trust and who will trust me in return. If you give me the chance, I promise to show you that I am the woman you are looking for. I'm not going to botch this up again. I do not want your tears, Catherine. I do not want your excuses. You had a chance. You threw everything away. Malcolm stated, his words harsh but definitive. The truth is that we cannot go back. Not after all. I'm done being the one who fixes things. It is up to you to control your own life. Take responsibility for the mess you've created. Malcolm's rage bubbled over, and he banged his fist against the wall. The dull thump echoed around the room, making Catherine jump. She rushed up to him, her voice full of concern. Malcolm, what are you? He mumbled. Call the girls in here, Catherine. His back was turned to her. She stood frozen, her eyebrows furrowed. What? Why, what's happening? He took a deep breath, still facing the wall. I know they are with you tonight. They are your backup, right? Her eyes widened with disbelief. How do you know this? Malcolm turned to face her, his voice calm yet forceful. I have my sources, but it isn't about them. I promised Bill that I would not tell the girls about our plans to get back together. At that moment, the door opened and their girls entered. The mood was tense, but Malcolm spoke up with a controlled tone. Listen, I am willing to be nice for the sake of you and the daughters, but I will not forget what happened. I can't forgive all that has happened to me. The females exchanged looks. Sensing the gravity of the situation, they knew their mother and father had attempted to make things right, but they also knew the reality. They couldn't stay together anymore. But, for the first time in a long time, there was a glimmer of hope for peaceful coexistence. Malcolm made up his mind. He could forgive, but the past could not be erased. He'd learned his lesson the hard way. Catherine made one more mistake, and he would go away forever. No more second chances. Meanwhile, Catherine had taken a tiny apartment near the twins, seeking to restart her life. She'd never ceased regretting her actions, and the guilt hung heavy on her. Her relationship with Malcolm was irreparably damaged, and no matter how hard they tried to go on, the scars of the past remained. Julian remained distant from his family after marrying the woman he had met at the bar. He didn't want to get involved in the drama anymore. Despite the hurt and tension, there was a glimmer of hope. Jessica, their daughter, had just announced that she was pregnant, and in 7 months, they would all become grandparents. It wasn't the reconciliation Catherine had hoped for, but it was a fresh start, and perhaps it was the start of something better for their fractured family. Here's the next story. I always assumed betrayals came with warnings. Small fissures appear before the fall, whispers from behind closed doors, stolen glances that were not yours. I had mistakenly assumed that I would see it coming, that I would never be the man surprised by the lady he trusted the most. But that's the issue about treachery. It does not knock, crashes through the front door, tearing your life apart before you understand what's going on. It began with a single night and a single moment. Emily has a girls' night planned. Nothing out of the usual. She put on a dress I hadn't seen before, tight black, the kind that left no room for imagination. When I raised an eyebrow, she simply laughed. She said she bought it months ago, but hadn't found the proper time to wear it. Something about it struck me as weird. Emily was not the sort to leave a new garment in her wardrobe untouched, so I let it go. She gave me a short kiss and dashed out the door. This should have been the end of it. A typical night out with the gals. I'm at home. Instead, it morphed into something else entirely. An hour later, my brother Jason called. Dude, are you out? No, just relaxing at home. A prolonged pause. Too long. Then he spoke cautiously. Are you sure? The way he said it made my stomach clench. I am sure. I spoke slowly. Why? Another pause. And finally, because I just saw Emily, and she is not with her buddies. The air in the room became heavy, suffocating, and my grasp on the phone tightened. What? I'm attending rallies. She just walked in with a guy from the rear in one of the booths. Jason would not lie about something like this. He understood what Emily meant to me. He understood what I meant when I said she was everything. I didn't recall getting into the automobile. I couldn't recall driving. All I could feel was a beating in my chest, a roar in my ears, and a separation between my body and my thoughts. Rallies was full when I arrived. Laughter, music, clinking of glasses, typical Friday night pandemonium. My eyes searched the room feverishly, hunting. Then I spotted her. Emily was sitting across from a man I'd never seen before, and she was beaming, leaning in close and smiling in that warm, teasing way that used to be just for me. Something inside me broke. I walked forwards, slow, deliberate. People brushed by me, but I scarcely felt them. I reached the table and stood directly beside them. They didn't notice at first. They were too lost in the world they had created for themselves, a universe in which I did not exist. She eventually looked up. Her face turned pallid. Nick, she breathed. Tyler, I supposed, froze, his hands remaining dangerously near to hers. He stared up at me, bewilderment flashing across his face before awareness dawned. Emily was quick. I will offer her that. She put on a hesitant smile, sitting up straighter and feigning a laugh. Oh God, baby, what are you doing here, baby? She had the audacity. My voice came out low, steady, too controlled for the rage rising within me. Funny. I was going to ask you the same thing. She blinked quickly. Her mind was searching for an excuse. I could see it happening, gears churning, phrases formulating, practicing whatever lies she believed would get her out of this situation. Tyler, the guy sitting across from her, had enough self-preservation to appear uncomfortable. He shifted in his seat, his gaze flitting between me and Emily. His hands gradually retreated from the table. I remained mute. I wanted to know what she had to say. I wanted to see her attempt. Emily let her another uneasy laugh. She reached for my arm as if she could smooth it over with a touch. I stepped back before she could make contact. She gulped hard. Nick, you're acting weird. This is Tyler. Do you remember meeting him before? I stared at her coldly, unblinking. I'd never met this man in my life. Her lips twitched, just a flutter of hesitation. But that was sufficient. I turned to Tyler. Is this true? Tyler paused. Just a second. Too long. His jaw tightened, and he performed the stupidest thing he could have done in that situation. He stared at Emily as if she had the answer, as if she could lead him through this. Gotcha. I breathed sharply and shook my head. Wow. Emily's smile wavered. Nick, stop. You are acting insane. Crazy. That single word chilled my spine. How many times had I seen this play out? Not only with me, among other males, other fools who were overly trusting, who donated too much, only to find their reality turned upside down, while the woman in front of them smiled and spoke. You are imagining things. You are overreacting. You're nuts. It was textbook and disgustingly predictable. And for a single second, I nearly envied her bravery. Almost. Are you suggesting I've met him before? I asked calmly. Emily nodded too fast. Yes. Remember last year's work event at the rooftop bar? Tyler squirmed uneasily and looked down at his glass. I let the silence pass, and then I did something I knew she wouldn't expect. I took out my phone. Her eyes fluttered with fear. I'm just going to check something, I said. Because I'm insane, I opened my photo album and scrolled to the precise event she mentioned, the work party. Emily had become tipsy on champagne and spent most of the evening clinging to me, murmuring how much she loved me. So I remember that night vividly, how fortunate she was. Do you know what else? I remembered Tyler wasn't present. I moved the screen toward her, displaying a clear image of us at the party. Where is he? I asked, because I can't see him anywhere. Emily's breath caught. Her fingers tightened into fists against the table. Nick. Tyler rose from his seat. I should go. Coward. Emily snapped her head toward him, panic blazing in her eyes. Tyler, don't. And that told me everything. Everything the first needed to know. Everything she had been desperate to conceal. I took a step back, seeing Tyler nearly run for the exit, leaving her sitting there fully exposed and alone. Her chest rose and sank quickly, her mind still searching for an escape. I inclined my head, taking in the woman I thought I knew, the one I was about to marry. She opened her mouth to tell another lie, but I raised a hand and stopped her before she could even begin. I then delivered the words that caused her to recoil. Tell the truth, Emily. Emily opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I watched her chest rise and fall, her hands grabbing the table's edge as if it were the only thing keeping her standing. Tell the truth. Those 4 words transformed her into prey. I could see the fight unfolding behind her eyes, the calculations and desperation. She was intelligent. I grant her that. The thing was, I'd already recognized the deception for what it was. She didn't try to mend it. She was trying to make it through it. Her voice, when it eventually came, was small and unsteady. Nick, please don't do this here. A small laugh escaped my lips. I pulled out the chair across from her. Tyler had just left and sat down. We are doing this here, Emily. Her gaze darted around the bar, as if looking for an exit. It was nearly funny. She wasn't embarrassed to stroll in here with him. She was more concerned about being seen now than she was back then. Now, she wants seclusion. Pathetic. I leaned forward and rested my elbows on the table. How long, she swallowed. Nick, how long? Her lower lip twitched. It's not as you think. I tilted my head. What am I thinking, Emily? She hesitated, then spoke quietly, as if she truly hoped it would help. I love you. I let out a bitter, humorless laugh. Love? I repeated. Do you adore me? She nodded. Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted me to feel sorry for her. She wanted me to see her as fragile, broken, as if she were the victim here. I breathed gently and dragged a palm down my face. Okay, Emily, tell me, do you usually go on covert dates with men you don't love? She flinched. It isn't like that. So, what is it like? I pressed. She wiped her eyes. Tyler is just someone I speak to. Talk to someone. I stared at her, deadpan. That is fascinating. I puzzled since it did not appear to be a conversation from where I was standing. It seemed like a date, and, judging by the way he hurried out of here, he knew it as well. She began to speak, but I interrupted her. And don't call me insane. Do not offend me like that. Her jaw jerked closed. For the first time since everything began, she appeared terrified. Good. How long? I asked again. Emily drew in a breath, twisted the napkin in front of her. She stated that it had been a couple of months. Something inside me snapped a few months ago when she woke up next to me every morning and kissed me. Good night. While she was discussing wedding venues, honeymoon destinations, and the future, I forced myself to keep still and breathe. Have you slept with him? Silence. That was my response. I sighed quickly and pushed my chair back. I stood there, looking down at the woman I had planned to spend my life with. Emily's eyes widened with panic. Nick, please wait. But I had already walked away. She dashed after me, her heels clicking wildly on the floor. She grabbed my wrist, pressing her fingers into my skin. Please do not go like this. This is something we can fix. We can. I spun so swiftly that she stumbled back. Her breath caught at what she saw in my face. You do not love me, Emily, I said in an unusually calm voice. You enjoyed how easy I was. You appreciate that I trusted you. You enjoy that I never questioned you. Her lips parted, and a sob caught in her throat. That is not true. I shake my head. I deserve better than this. Her grip tightened. Nicholas, please, I made an error. An error. I gave out a breathless laugh. One by one, I pry her fingers away from me. No, Emily. You made a choice. I turned and went out the door. She did not follow that. I stepped out into the chilly night air, but it did little to quell the wrath that was burning within me. My fists were clenched at my sides as I stood in the parking lot, attempting to breathe and digest the previous 10 minutes. I'd been planning a future with her for a few months, while she was slipping off with another guy behind my back. She had looked me in the eyes every day, told me she loved me, and then gone to see him. Several months. I should have left it there. Should have driven home, collected my belongings, and terminated this misery. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I took out my phone, and my fingers moved before I could stop them. Jason. The phone rang once before he picked up Nick. She admitted it. I remarked plainly. A beat of quiet and a slow breath. An asterisk indicates a guy. I apologize. I closed my eyes. I tightened my grasp on the phone. I need a favor. Jason did not hesitate. Give it a name. Find out whatever you can about Tyler. Another pause, and his voice became sharp. Serious? You've got it. I hung up. I was not the type of guy who sought vengeance. I was not the kind to dig. But this was not going to be ignored. Emily had spent months taking me for a fool. I needed to know how deep the betrayal was. I got into my car and let everything she'd said race through my mind. Every fib, every half-truth. And then I realized something. I still wasn't sure why. I'd given her everything. We'd been happy. Or so I thought. So why? Why him? Why waste 6 years for a stranger? I didn't have an answer, but I was about to get one. I didn't get much sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Panic, remorse, and lies played out like a twisted cycle. And no matter how badly I wanted to turn it off, I couldn't. By dawn, I felt raw and hollowed out. But I was still waiting for Jason to call. Came shortly after 9 a.m. NICK. Jason stated the moment I picked up. You are sitting down. This was never a good sign. Please tell me. He breathed sharply. Tyler is not a random guy, man. He's her coworker. I still work in a different department, but they have collaborated on a few projects. According to what I gathered, he has been with the company for roughly a year. And get this. Jason paused. I tightened my jaw. What? He is married. The words hit me like a punch in the ribs. Married? Emily had been sneaking around with a married man. My stomach turned. I believed she was simply selfish. But this was something else. I took a slow breath and forced my voice to be even. Does his wife know? No idea. But here's the kicker. I checked their work schedules. They had a business vacation last month. A chilly, unpleasant sensation settled in my chest. Emily had gone out of town for 3 days last month. She informed me that she was going to a conference, that it was only she and a few other staff. She texted me, "Good night." She called me. She told me she missed me the entire time she was with him. I pushed my fingers to my forehead, attempting to fight back the nausea. "Send me everything you've got. Are you sure?" Jason's tone was cautionary. "You do not have to." "I need to see it." Jason paused, but then I heard the notification. Ding! I brought up the texts, screenshots, photographs, and work emails. Everything was there. Finally, at the bottom, there is a social media profile. Tyler has a wife. I clicked on it, and she was smiling. Happy. She had no notion her spouse was cheating on her with another lady. Something inside of me cracked. Emily thought she could accomplish it. She thought she could walk away from it unscathed. With myself as the sole casualty, she was wrong. I wasn't going to let this rot me from within. I wasn't going to be the only one to suffer. I was about to burn everything down as I stared at the screen, my hand hovering over the message button on Tyler's wife's page. My pulse pounded in my ears with a constant, unwavering rhythm. One tap. That is all it would take. One message would demolish her entire world, just as mine had. But I did not tap. Not yet. I wanted Emily to see what happened. I wanted her to see everything she had carefully hidden come tumbling down. I pulled away from the table and grabbed my keys. Emily was still at home. I knew she was. She'd already texted me twice, wondering where I was and begging me to talk. She wanted to explain, to deepen the wound with whatever justification she had devised during the course of the night. Good. She didn't see it coming. The drive back to our flat seemed unreal. I wasn't even sure how I felt anymore. Anger? Definitely. Betrayal is evident. But below it all, there was something else. A sense of purpose. This was not about saving anything. This was not about repairing us. There was no more of us. This was about making Emily face everything she sought to avoid. When I entered the apartment, she was pacing the living room and gnawing on her fingernail. She always denied having a worried habit. When she spotted me, she froze. "Nick," her voice was out of breath. Relieved. "I've tried to call you." I closed the door behind me, slow, deliberate. She took a hesitant step forwards. "Please. Can we speak? Please sit down with me." I tilted my head. "You mean how you and Tyler sat down last night?" Her face wrinkled. "Nick, stop." I ignored her and got out my phone to find the screenshots Jason had provided me. Then I turned the screen towards her. Emily's whole body stiffened. Her gaze flew between the images, emails, flight schedules, photos, and documentation. There was undeniable proof of what she had done. Finally, at the bottom is a picture of Tyler's wife. Her lips separated. Her breathing was harsh and irregular. "Where did you obtain it?" I giggled under my breath. "That is what you are worrying about." Emily's hands rushed to her temples and gripped her hair. "Nicholas, please." I tapped my screen once, which brought up Tyler's wife's profile. "Should I email it to her, or would you prefer to?" Emily lunged at my phone. I saw it coming. I sidestepped at the last second, allowing her to stumble by me. Desperation streamed from her throat. "You cannot. Please. You cannot. Why not?" My voice sounded almost curious. Doesn't she deserve to know? Tears flowed down her cheeks, honest and true. "You do not comprehend." "No, Emily, you do not comprehend." I stepped closer, towering over her. "You do not get to play the victim. You don't get to whine and plead because you've done this." She sobbed and shook her head. "I never intended to." "You never planned to do what?" I shut her off. "Get caught." She flinched. Silence stretched between us, dense and stifling, before softening, brokenly. "I do not want to lose you." I looked at her, the lady I had once hoped to marry, and felt nothing. No affection or sympathy. Not anymore. "You already did." Then, before she could think of stopping me, I pressed send. The message was gone. Sent. Irreversible. Emily made a choked sound halfway between a gasp and a sob, as if I had just flung her off a cliff. She reached for my phone again, but I took a step back and saw her slide forward, her hands grabbing at nothing. "No," she choked. "Nick, no, what have you done?" I slipped my phone into my pocket. "I did what you should have done the instant you allowed that man to touch you." Her hands rose to her face. fingers pressing at her temples. You do not comprehend. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Oh, I understand completely. You didn't mind that you were sneaking around with him. You didn't care that you lied to me every day. But now you're concerned because your small dream world is starting to disintegrate. Emily began pacing, her breathing unsteady and panicky. This isn't only about me, Nick. This will damage people's life. Yeah, I replied bluntly. Like how you damaged mine. She turned around, her eyes burning. It was not like that. I raised an eyebrow. Please educate me, Emily. What was it like? She squeezed her lips together till they turned white. I could see the fight in her, the last-ditch effort to save whatever distorted image of reality she believed she could offer me. I never intended to hurt you, she whispered. I laughed again, this time sharper. This time. That is the trouble with folks like you, Emily. You never want to harm somebody. You do it anyhow. A harsh tongue resonated around the room. Her whole body flinched. My phone. She understood what it meant. Tyler's wife had viewed the message. Emily's breathing became shallow. Nicholas, please, she rasped. Please tell me what you said to her. I pulled out my phone, read the notification, and smiled. She wants to discuss. I guess we will find out together. I whispered and tapped the screen. Emily let out a trembling breath and shook her head. Nick, please do not do this. Too late. I pressed the call button. The telephone rang once, twice, and then there was a voice. Hello? Emily's face crumpled. Hi. I spoke smoothly. You don't know me, but I believe we should chat about your husband. There was a sharp inhalation at the other end of the line. A tense, waited for silence, and then finally, who is this? Her voice was firm, but I could detect an undercurrent of distrust. A worry that she knew something was amiss, as if her stomach had been screaming at her for months, just as mine had. She hadn't wanted to believe it. Emily remained motionless in front of me, horrified. Her hands trembled by her sides. Her lips parted, as if she were about to beg and plead. I did not give her the chance. My name is Nicholas, the first said, and I am engaged to Emily. Silence. A long moment allowed me to hear the way her breath caught. I could almost see her sitting in her kitchen, maybe, or snuggled up on a couch, staring at her phone with wide-open eyes. The components are clicking into place. Proceed cautiously. Emily. I looked at the woman in front of me, the woman I'd spent 6 years loving, trusting, and planning our future with. I didn't recognize her anymore. Yes, I mentioned Emily. She has been seeing your husband. The other end of the line lets out a sharp, trembling gasp. What do you mean? Emily lunged. She tried to pull the phone from my grasp, her nails raking across my skin. But I was quicker. I took a step back, my eyes blazing into hers as I held the phone just out of reach. Nick, stop, she cried, her voice harsh and urgent. You do not comprehend. I ignored her. They have been sleeping together for months. I spoke into the phone, lying to us and sneaking behind our backs. They even took a business vacation together. Does this sound familiar? Another pause, and her voice broke. Yes. Emily made a coughing noise. Nicholas, please. But I wasn't speaking to her anymore. I didn't even glance at her. Listen. I spoke in a controlled tone. I understand this is a lot. I understand it is not what you wanted to hear, but I have proof. Emails, flights, messages. If you'd like to see it, I'll send it. The woman on the phone did not respond soon away. I could hear her breathing harsh and raspy. Then send it, Nick, Emily shrieked. I turned my phone so Emily could see my thumb hovering over the screen, and her face scrunched. She said, please. Tears run down her cheeks. Please do not do this. She begged. She pleaded. And for the first time since the beginning, I felt nothing. No sympathy or guilt. Just justice. I pressed send. Emily sank on the couch, like if I had just taken the earth out from under her. Her hands trembled as she held her head. Her breathing was ragged and irregular. I turned away from her, my complete attention focused on the phone. The message was delivered. Tyler's wife held the proof. Now we have screenshots, emails, and everything. I had no idea how she would respond, but I knew one thing for sure. Emily's life was about to flame. A stifled sob echoed in the silence behind me. Nicholas, please. I finally looked at her. She was a mess. Mascara ran down her face. Her immaculate image was destroyed, and her neatly created world crumbled beneath her feet. The same woman who had lied to my face for months was now breaking down because she had to face the consequences. Please. What? I said with a chilly voice. Please pretend it never happened. Please help you cover it up. Her shoulders shook. It was not intended to be like this. A sour laugh escaped me. No. How was it supposed to be, Emily? She opened her mouth. Then he closed it, as if she, too, lacked an explanation. I watched her struggle, drowning in her own shame, and felt disgusted. Then my phone vibrated with a text. I cast a downward glance. Tyler has a wife. Thank you for informing me. I knew there was something wrong. I only needed to see it for myself. Another communication arrived before I could react. He just arrived home. I am going to confront him now. I smirked. Perfect. Emily flinched when she saw the sight on my face. Nick. I tilted the screen toward her so she could read it. Her breath caught. She leaped up from the couch so quickly that she almost toppled. No, you do not comprehend. This is horrible. I raised an eyebrow. Yes, Emily, it is. She grabbed my arm, fingers pressing into my skin. You're not sure what he's capable of. Something in her voice. Fear made my gut constrict. Before I could ask what she meant, my phone chimed again. This time there was a call. Tyler's wife Emily's cheeks turned pale. I said hello, but it wasn't a woman's voice on the other end. It was a man in love, dangerous and enraged. You've made a huge mistake. The voice sent shivers down my spine. It was not Tyler's wife. That was him. For a moment, I did not say anything. Let the weight of those words lie between us. Emily had gone still beside me. Her breath comes in short, harsh bursts. You just created a giant F***. The asterisk king made a mistake. Tyler repeated his speech in a softer tone this time, more controlled but not less hazardous. A slow smirk tugged on my lips. Did I? On the opposite end, there is a sharp exhalation. You're not sure what you've done. Emily's fingers pressed into my arm so hard that it hurt. Nick, hang up, she whispered. Please simply hang up. I ignored her. Did you cheat on your wife? I spoke evenly. I just told her the truth. If you are seeking for someone to blame, begin with yourself. Tyler chuckled without humor. Yeah, and what do you think will happen next? Something about the way he phrased it prepared my muscles to coil. It depends, I said, tightening my grasp on the phone. Are you threatening me? So, silence. I do not make threats. I make promises. Emily yanked the phone out of my grasp. Tyler, stop, she cried. Please simply leave him out of this. My blood became chilly. I carefully turned my head and stared at her. Leave me out of what? Emily. She inhaled sharply, understanding what she had just spoken. I grabbed the phone back before she could stop me. Tyler. What the hell is she talking about? Tyler gave out another low laugh, but this one was not furious. It was almost taunting. Wow, he muttered. She didn't actually tell you anything, did she? Something dark twisted in my stomach. Tell me what? Emily lunged for the phone again, but I pushed her away. My heart pounded. Tyler's voice became much lower. Your tiny fiancé. She didn't simply cheat, Guy. Pause. Then, almost joyfully, she helped me cover up even worse. The room tilted. I looked to Emily, my thoughts racing. What's he talking about? Her lips quivered. Nicholas, please. Tyler kept going. Inquire about the accident. He made a drawl. Inquire as to what exactly happened that night. My stomach sank. I focused my complete attention to Emily. Now my entire body is rigid. What happened in the accident? Her breathing became ragged. Nick and I. What was the accident? Her eyes flooded with tears. And then in the lowest, weakest voice, somebody died. The air had left my lungs. Tyler chuckled. Yeah, and she helped me make sure no one found out. I stared at her, my thoughts splintering. The woman I loved and thought I knew. And suddenly, the cheating wasn't the worst thing. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.